Hello.
Hello, I'm Laurence.
And I'm Heather. Right, so today we're going to do God's People Head Home, which is the story of Zerubbabel. But we begin with our block, and today's block is a hammer. Today we have a hammer. So, Zerubbabel was one of King David's children's children. So he was one of God's people, but like many of God's people, he was far from home in a land called Persia. Persia was beautiful, the most beautiful land in all the world, but it wasn't where God wanted Zerubbabel. So one day, God whispered a secret to Zerubbabel, "It's time for you to go back home. And when you do, I have a job for you, rebuild my temple." Rebuild God's temple? Zerubbabel could hardly believe it. The temple was where God came to be with his people. For years there had been no temple at all, which meant God wasn't there. But a new temple? This could only mean one thing. God was getting ready to come back. Zerubbabel marched straight in to see the king of Persia, and he said, "O mighty king, king, most kingish and king-like of kings, can I ask a teensy-weensy, itty-bitty, teeny-tiny favour?" "Anything," the king said. When Zerubbabel asked to go back home and take thousands of God's people with him, what do you think the king said? The king said, "Absolutely. Yes, yes, yes." God wasn't using this king. God was using this king hundreds of miles away to bring his people home. Even though the king didn't know it, he was fulfilling what God had told the prophet Jeremiah. You won't be far from home forever. The temple won't be gone forever. Does it feel like you're all alone? Does it feel like my plans aren't working anymore? That's not the case. I'm still with you, and I still have a plan. Not just a today plan, but a tomorrow plan. In fact, it's a forever plan, and a good one too. It's a plan to take all the wrong and make it right, to take all the darkness and make it light. It's a plan to bring you back home to me.
When Zerubbabel went to Jerusalem, he started to rebuild the temple. It was hard work, and a lot of people didn't want him to finish. He tried to ruin all the work of God's people were doing on the temple. But God was with Zerubbabel, even when he was far from home, even when building the temple was hard, even when his enemies tried to stop him, God was with Zerubbabel. And so the temple's foundation was finished. Zerubbabel and a priest named Jeshua gathered many of the people together. And then they sang the same song Solomon had sung when they built the first temple. God is good, his love is better. We hope he'll live within us forever. The people sang and danced and played tambourines and trumpets. It was a loud day, but many people, especially the old ones, were crying. Why? Because they remembered Solomon's temple, and they knew this one wasn't the same. They also realised something that day, that there just maybe the best way for God to live with his people might not be a temple of gold and wood and fabric. All at all. Maybe God needs to come to his people some other way. If God was going to live with his people, maybe he had to come to earth in a living, breathing person. Emmanuel, God with us. Zerubbabel couldn't quite figure out how God would do, but he knew that God would do it. And until the end of days, the same song repeated in his heart. God couldn't remain. Sin drove him away, so Zerubbabel began to hope and pray. God, will you come to earth to stay? and the block reveals the letter I.
Bye.
Bye-bye, thank you.